Hello. Now, the latest we're getting from the Kenyan market is that government has taken a bold step to protect the unemployed. And of course, this is being conditioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, where we're seeing many people, not just in the Kenyan market, but across the world, being driven out of employment. Kenya has taken a step to establish what it's calling an unemployment insurance fund. The way it's going to work is that employees are supposed to contribute 1% of their salary when they're still in active employment, which is supposed to be matched by employers. Now, when someone runs out of employment, they'll be drawing from this fund for 6 months as they look for their next job. Now, we'll be discussing a lot more about social security protection in this show. I'm Charles Bod, your host. It is the Man and Markets Show. Now, still talking about social security, Uganda has taken a bold move also to establish what is being termed as the National Social Health Insurance Scheme. Now, we want to find out how this scheme is going to work and how it's going to benefit you and me, but then also the gaps that, according to experts, still persist and need bridging.
The numbers just came out, and as you may have seen in the media, the regulator talking about us hitting the 1 trillion mark. It's a milestone for the industry. However, we still have a long way in comparison to other financial sectors like banking. Yeah, but it's a good thing. It's always good to celebrate small achievements. From a relevance point of view, our claims are also growing. So last year we paid about 326, over 300 billion in claims. I think that should be the number that we focus largely on. I long for a day when government reduces its expenditure on disaster preparedness, and they instead look for insurance to take care of that. So a lot of policies have to be put in place where insurance is encouraged for uptake by all citizens, and instead of government releasing funds to take care of disasters, insurance companies come into play and pay the claims and make sure that people are restored and they are fit to move on with life. For the rest of the year, we struggled to get to our feet but remained resilient. Businesses struggled in some sectors, some other sectors didn't struggle that much, so that helped. Insurance, particularly life insurance, some of our customers suffered on getting their premiums up and running. People got job cuts. We also had a few issues with loans, non-performing loans going bad. The other thing that was very handy was the regulator coming on board to relax some of the regulations to ensure that customers who are not supposed to pay, who are not able to pay premium on time, would still be given cover with a payment plan. So that helped to keep the industry quite on that recovery path, because if it was that strict that everyone had to pay before they get cover, the results may not have been the same. The best thing about a scheme is it has to work and it has to be well thought through before it's put out. This scheme, the work for the National Insurance Scheme has been going on for the past 20 years, and a lot has been changing, mainly from a policy point of view, from a stakeholder point of view, but whatever it is that we have to look at from a technical angle is we have to update the cover we are giving people. By the time this happened, we didn't even have COVID-19 as a thing. And when I look at the provisions of this cover, some of these may not be fully clear or taken care of. So I believe with the numbers we have as a country, we can get this. The millennials now are ruling the workplace. There's a next generation coming up. So a lot of things have to change, and the number of things in that bill have to change. I think it was passed by Parliament, but the President hasn't signed it yet. A couple of things have to change. One of the phrases I hear commonly on people's lips is cross-subsidization. My fundamental difference with it is how it is implemented or understood. In understanding cross-subsidization, from an economic point of view, it means that the ones who have should make it easy for the others who don't, so that everyone has something basic. When it comes to health, that's not how it works. When it comes to health, it means that everyone contributes something, and the ones who are lucky not to fall sick they don't claim, but the ones who fall sick claim more than what they have contributed. That's how it works in the insurance space. So sometimes one of the things that was the debates that was going on about how to implement a national health insurance scheme was a format that was quite unfortunate. And I pray this doesn't pass in that format, where the contribution mode for the formal employees of the formal sector is different from the ones in the informal sector, where the person in the formal sector pays a percentage of salary, the one in the informal sector pays a fixed fee. That's not cross-subsidization, that is actually pay as you earn for the formal sector. But when you're doing your modeling actuarially or statistically, you look at how much pool you need to put together to cover a certain set of costs. And the best thing to do is to come up with a uniform figure, because whoever came up with that concept may not have view of how much Ugandans are earning in total in terms of payroll. So my belief is, if that is corrected and the figure is set per person, let's say per head, where I say every citizen pays a certain amount per year to make sure that this is done, there is more equity for people across the board without losing sight of cross-subsidization, because not everyone will be unfortunate or fall sick. So the scheme has to be government, it can't be privatized. So the use of the word insurance means that the scheme has to be within the insurance industry. We can have all other sectors contributing their different expertise. But we know we have a new law in Uganda. We repealed the old insurance law in 2017, got a new law, and anyone doing anything insurance, it has to be regulated by the Insurance Regulatory Authority. The unfortunate bit is the same parliament that passed that hasn't seen this to align to that particular provision of that act. And I think right now the bill is being put, it's meant to be run by, the scheme is meant to be run by Minister of Health. The closeness there is finance. So you have health, finance, then gender, and insurance as a sector, which is under finance, of course, is just having a seat on the board. So in terms of penetration, that's one way of increasing penetration.
The COVID situation has thrown quite a number of projections, economic projections, off balance. And these are both at the household level, but then also at the national level. But we will not tire to try and understand what experts are actually saying on what should be the next move and how can the country wriggle itself out of the current situation going forward. Despite the huge hit that trade has taken as a result of COVID and the associated control measures, government still counts it among areas to drive revenue mobilization going forward.
The trade sector is our biggest revenue contributor, which contributes about 30% of the revenue we collect, followed by manufacturing, which contributes about 23%. Having a quick analysis at the impact of COVID on these two areas, definitely there was a decline last year for the manufacturing sector from about 24% to about 23% this current financial year up to April. And then for the trade sector, from about 30%, 30.7 to about 30.5.
The first round of COVID control measures saw disruption in manufacturing supply chains and at the same time a reduction in demand, including movement of goods and services, heavily affecting performance of the two areas. The taxman is now looking at creating fair ground for all business operators and root out those who enjoy undue advantage over others as part of its support package to COVID-affected businesses.
Introduction of electronic receipting and invoicing system, commonly referred to as IFRIS. This is a very transparent technology that allows us to effectively and accurately assess the revenues that are expected from these sectors. And it will take out room for any, inaccurate assessment. It will take out room for any suspicion, because whatever you're doing is transparently being shared with the revenue authority. Now, if this is implemented across board, it will help these sectors to trade on fair ground.
Government is also looking at addressing the financing challenges, especially long-term financing, that many businesses are contending with today, and is projected to worsen by the time the economy emerges out of the current lockdown.
We have practically provided almost 1 trillion Uganda shillings to Uganda Development Bank to ensure that they are able to have sufficient capital, but also lend at rates which are reasonable for particularly the manufacturers. So we'll continue with that strategy of providing additional resources.
Even as pundits are still assessing how much the second COVID wave will have on the two areas, some are pointing government to focus on areas where it enjoys better business advantage over others as one of the most viable ways out of the current tough spot.
The two opportunities mentioned are trade with Africa or African markets, that is catalyzing the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and then the second opportunity is the oil and gas sector, which is a growth sector. And if we are now to look at trade, one of the key things we have to do, given that our comparative advantage as a country is in agriculture, is industrialization of agriculture.
As the business community contends with the impact the second lockdown is having on business, focus is now being placed on how best to get the economy back on track post-lockdown, and trade facilitation systems efficiency, value addition, and finance support are being singled out as critical ingredients. That concludes the first segment of the Money and Markets show. Don't go away. Money and Markets continues after this break.